I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound completely backwards, especially if you've been drowning in trading courses, indicators, and strategies for the past few months or years. The secret to making consistent money in trading isn't having more setups, more screens, or more indicators, or more complexity. It's actually the exact opposite. And I know you don't believe me yet, but stick with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share with you is going to flip everything you thought you knew about trading completely upside down. You wake up, check your charts, and there are 15 different things screaming at you. Your moving averages are pointing one way. Your RSI is saying something else. Your MACD is giving you a third signal, and that trading guru you follow on social media just posted about a completely different setup. So what do? You freeze, you second guess yourself, you miss the trade entirely, or you take a trade you're not even confident in. Sound familiar? This is the trap that 95% of traders fall into. And it's exactly why most people never make it past their first year in the markets. Here's the truth that nobody wants to tell you, because it doesn't sell courses or subscriptions. You don't need a complex system to make money trading. You need one simple, repeatable setup that you understand so deeply, so intimately, that you can spot it in your sleep. You need to become absolutely obsessed with one pattern, one edge, one specific way of reading the market. That's it. That's the entire game. Think about it this way. Imagine you're learning to play basketball, but instead of practicing free throws over and over until they're automatic, you spend one day practicing free throws, the next day working on three-pointers, the day after that focusing on layups, then switching to defense, then ball handling, and on and on. You'd never get good at anything. You'd be mediocre at everything and excellent at nothing. But what if you just practiced free throws every single day for 6 months? You'd become deadly from the free throw line. That one skill would be so sharp, so reason that you could perform it under any pressure, in any situation. Trading works exactly the same way. The professionals, the ones actually making money year after year, they're not jumping from strategy to strategy. They're not collecting indicators like Pokemon cards. They found one edge, one setup that made sense to them, and they practiced it thousands of times until it became second nature. They know exactly what they're looking for, exactly when to pull the trigger, and exactly when to walk away. There's no confusion, no hesitation, no analysis paralysis. Let me tell you about Mark, a trader I know who spent 3 years losing money consistently. He had 7 monitors, 43 indicators on his charts, subscriptions to 5 different trading services, and a bookshelf full of trading books. He was doing everything right, according to conventional wisdom. He was studying hard, learning different strategies, staying informed, and he was broke. Then one day, out of pure frustration, he deleted everything. He cleared all his indicators except for one simple moving average and price action. He decided to focus exclusively on one pattern, a basic trend continuation setup that occurs after a pullback. That's it. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. The first month, he didn't trade much because he was only looking for that one specific setup. He passed on dozens of trades that would have fit his old system. His friends thought he was crazy, but by month 3, something clicked. He could spot his setup instantly. He knew exactly what a good one looked like versus a mediocre one. His win rate started climbing. His confidence grew, and within a year, he was finally consistently profitable. Same markets, same capital, but completely different results. The only thing that changed was his focus. This is the power of simplicity. When you strip away all the noise and focus on one thing, your brain can actually process what's happening. You start to see nuances that you missed before. You begin to understand the psychology behind the pattern. You learn when it works best and when to avoid it. You develop a genuine feel for the market that no amount of indicators can give you. But here's where most people mess up. They hear this advice and they think, Okay, I'll pick a random setup and stick with it. That's not what I'm saying. You need to find a setup that resonates with you personally, something that makes logical sense to your brain, something that fits your personality, your schedule, and your risk tolerance. If you're impatient by nature, a position trading setup that holds for weeks isn't going to work for you, no matter how profitable it is statistically. If you have a full-time job, a scalping strategy that requires you to watch charts all day is dead on arrival. The setup you choose needs to match who you are as a person. Are you someone who likes clear rules and structure? Then maybe a breakout strategy with defined entry and exit points is your thing. Are you more intuitive and comfortable with ambiguity? Perhaps support and resistance trading, where you're reading price action flows, better suits your style. Do you get anxious holding positions overnight? Then swing trading probably isn't for you. These aren't small details. This is everything. And here's another crucial point. Your one setup needs to have a genuine edge in the market. I'm not talking about something that worked once or twice, or something that looks good in hindsight. I'm talking about a repeatable pattern that's based on actual market dynamics, on the behavior of other from other traders, on supply and demand imbalances. It needs to be something that has a logical reason for existing. For example, let's say you trade breakouts from consolidation patterns. Why might that have an edge? Because when price consolidates, it's building up energy. Traders are taking positions, stops are clustering, and when it finally breaks out, there's a rush of momentum as stops get hit and breakout traders pile in. That's a real logical edge based on all market mechanics. Compare that to something like, I buy when 3 indicators all turn green at the same time. Why would that work? What's the underlying logic? If you can't explain why your edge exists in terms of actual market behavior, it's probably not a real edge. Once you've found your one setup, your one edge, the next step is to become obsessive about it. And I mean truly obsessive. You need to backtest it. You need to forward test it. You need to see it play out in different market conditions, different time frames, different instruments. You need to know this setup better than you know your own phone number. Start by going back through historical charts. Pull up 100 examples of your setup. Did it work? Why or why not? What were the conditions when it succeeded? What were the conditions when it failed? You'll start to notice patterns within the pattern. Maybe your breakout setup works great in trending markets but fails miserably in choppy conditions. That's valuable information. Now you know to be more selective. Now you know to check the broader market context before taking the trade. This is where you develop what professional traders call discretion. It's not about having a robot-like system where you take every single signal blindly. It's about understanding your setup so deeply that you can recognize the A+ opportunities versus the mediocre ones. You learn to pass on the marginal setups and only take the ones where everything lines up perfectly. This is how you improve your win rate and your risk-reward ratio simultaneously. And here's the beautiful thing about focusing on one setup. Your learning curve accelerates dramatically. When you're bouncing between 10 different strategies, you might see each one play out once or twice a month. You're learning at a snail's pace. But when you focus on one setup, you might see it play out 5 or 10 times a week. You're getting repetitions. You're building pattern recognition. You're developing genuine expertise. Think about chess masters. They don't become masters by learning 1,000 different openings superficially. They become masters by deeply understanding a handful of openings and the middle game positions that arise from them. They've seen those positions so many times that they instantly recognize patterns and possibilities that average players completely miss. Trading is no different. It's pattern recognition under uncertainty. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what if the market changes? What if my one setup stops working? This is a legitimate concern, but it's actually less of a problem than you think. First, if you've chosen a setup based on genuine market mechanics and trader psychology, it's not going to suddenly stop working. Human behavior doesn't fundamentally change. Fear and greed, the core drivers of market movement, have been around forever, and they're not going anywhere. Second, even if market conditions shift and your setup becomes less effective temporarily, you'll notice it immediately because you know the setup so well. You'll see that your win rate is dropping or your risk reward is deteriorating. You can adapt. You can make small tweaks. You can wait for better conditions. But you're making these decisions from a position of expertise and awareness, not from a position of confusion and desperation. Compare that to the trader using 10 different strategies. When their overall results start declining, they have no idea which strategy is failing or why. They can't pinpoint the problem because there are too many variables. They end up making random changes that might make things worse. They're flying blind. The other major advantage of having one simple setup is the psychological benefit, and this is huge. Trading psychology is actually more important than strategy, but nobody wants to hear that because it's not sexy. It doesn't involve fancy charts or complex mathematics. But here's the reality. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you can't execute it consistently because of fear, greed, or doubt, it's worthless. When you're jumping between multiple strategies, you never build real confidence. You're always second-guessing yourself. You're always wondering if you should be using strategy B instead of strategy A in this particular situation. This mental uncertainty bleeds into your execution. You hesitate on entries. You exited too early. You move your stops. You overtrade episode plus, trying to make up for missed opportunities. It's a disaster. But when you have one setup that you've mastered, something magical happens. You develop unshakable confidence, not arrogance, not recklessness, but genuine confidence based on experience and expertise. You know what you're looking for. You know what good looks like. And when your setup appears, you can execute without hesitation because you've done it successfully dozens or hundreds of times before. This confidence also helps you handle losses better. And make no mistake, you will have losses. Every setup loses sometimes. Every trader has losing trades. But when you're committed to one approach, you understand that losses are just part of the statistical distribution. They don't shake your faith in your method because you know the math. You know that over 100 trades, your edge plays out. One loss, or even 5 losses in a row, doesn't matter in the grand scheme. Contrast this with the strategy-hopping trader. They take 3 losses using strategy A and immediately abandon it for strategy B. Then, strategy B has 2 losses. So they switch to strategy C. They never give any approach enough time to prove itself. They're constantly in a state of doubt and confusion. This is mental torture. And it's completely unnecessary. Let me break down what your trading journey should actually look like if you're serious about becoming consistently profitable. First, you spend time finding your one setup. This might take a few weeks or even a couple of months. You're exploring different approaches, different time frames, different markets. You're trying things on for size to see what fits your personality and lifestyle. This is the only time you should be experimenting widely. Once you've found something that resonates, you commit. Hard commit. You're going to work with this one setup for at least 6 months, preferably a year. You're going to backtest it thoroughly. You're going to demo trade it until you can execute it flawlessly. Then you're going to trade it with real money, starting small, gradually increasing size as your confidence and consistency grow. During this time, you're journaling every trade. Not just the outcome, but the context. What were market conditions like? How did you feel before, during, and after the trade? What did you do well? What could you improve? This journaling process is crucial because it accelerates your learning. You're not just accumulating experiences, you're actively analyzing and improving. After 6 months to a year of focused practice, you'll have a deep understanding of your setup. You'll know its strengths and weaknesses. You'll know when to be aggressive and when to be defensive. You'll have developed the discipline and consistency that separate professional traders from gamblers. At this point, if you really want to, you could consider adding a second setup. But honestly, most successful traders never do. They find that their one edge is more than enough. Here's another thing that happens when you master one setup. You become much more selective about which trades you take. When you're desperate to trade because you're bored or because you feel like you should be doing something, you end up forcing trades that don't really fit your criteria. But when you're patiently waiting for your one specific setup, you naturally become more selective. You're comfortable sitting on your hands for hours or even days until the perfect opportunity presents itself. This selectivity dramatically improves your results. You're not churning your account with mediocre trades. You're not death by 1,000 cuts from commissions and slippage on low probability setups. Instead, you're taking fewer, higher quality trades. Your win rate improves. Your average winner gets bigger because you're only taking the best opportunities. Your average loser might stay the same or even get smaller because you're not in those questionable trades that seem okay at first, but quickly go against you. Professional traders, the ones managing millions of dollars, they're incredibly selective. They might only take a handful of trades per week or even per month. They're not sitting there clicking buttons all day. They're waiting patiently for their specific edge to appear. And when it does, they strike with confidence and size. This is the complete opposite of what most retail traders do, which is why most retail traders lose money. Let me address one more common objection. Some people think that having only one setup limits their opportunities, that they'll miss out on other profitable trades happening in the market. This is scarcity mindset talking, and it's completely wrong. The market is infinite. There are endless opportunities every single day across thousands of different instruments. You could never possibly take advantage of all of them. So why would you try? It's far better to capture a high percentage of the opportunities in your one specific niche than to capture a tiny percentage of opportunities across a dozen different approaches. You're not missing out. You're focusing. You're specializing. You're becoming an expert in one small corner of the market, and that expertise is what generates profits. Think about it from a different angle. Would you go to a doctor who knows a little bit about everything, but isn't really an expert in anything? Or would you rather go to a specialist who knows everything there is to know about your specific condition? The specialist, obviously. They might only treat one type of problem, but they're the absolute best at treating that problem. Trading is no different. The path to consistent profitability isn't about knowing more stuff or having more tools or following more gurus. It's about going deep instead of wide. It's about mastery instead of superficial knowledge. It's about developing genuine expertise in one specific way of reading and trading the market. This is how you build unshakable confidence. This is how you develop consistency. This is how you actually make money. So if you're currently struggling with your trading, I want you to do something radical. Strip everything away. Clear your charts. Close all the Discord channels and Telegram groups. Unsubscribe from the newsletters. Take a deep breath. Now, pick one setup. Just one. Something simple that makes logical sense to you. It could be breakouts, pullbacks, support and resistance bounces, whatever. But pick one and commit to it completely. Spend the next month just watching for that one pattern. Don't trade if you don't see it. Study it. Learn it. Understand it. Then start trading it. Small size, with proper risk management. Journal everything. Review your trades. Learn from your mistakes. Make small improvements. Be patient with yourself, but be consistent with your effort. I promise you, if you stick with this approach, if you resist the temptation to chase every shiny new strategy, if you commit to mastery instead of dabbling, your trading will transform. It won't happen overnight. Real skill development never does, but it will happen. You'll start seeing results that you never thought were possible. You'll develop the consistency and confidence that you've been searching for, and you'll finally understand why the most successful traders in the world keep their approach simple while everyone else is drowning in complexity? The choice is yours. You can keep doing what you've been doing, collecting strategies and indicators, hoping that the next one will be the magic solution. Or you can commit right now to the path of simplicity and mastery. One setup, deep focus, consistent execution. That's the formula. That's how you become profitable. That's how you join the 5% of traders who actually make it in this game.